Hola, sean bienvenidos a Noticias Tss. Hola, yo soy Mr. Creeper y esta semana les traigo las noticias referente a Minecraft, como la nueva Snapshot 21W10A, que es la nueva Snapshot, y el nuevo video que publicó Mojang, que es Diaries World Generation, que te recomiendo ver y que te quedes viendo el video para ver ese video, que lo voy a poner, ya que habla sobre todas las snapshots que han ido saliendo, más la beta que saqué hace poquito, que aparecerá al final del video. Y iniciaremos hablando acerca de la Snapshot 21W10A, que tiene nuevas funciones, biomas de cuevas exuberantes, para ser más específico. Hay un par de cambios y aquí les estaré mostrando esos cambios que tienen que ver más bien con la forma de los minerales, o sea la textura, la distribución de mineral. Hay un par de cambios técnicos, el OpenGL 3.2, que tiene que ver con los sombreadores, y un par de errores corregidos, y todo eso estará, donde estoy sacando la información estará aquí abajo en la descripción, más 2 videos donde te explican más de esta snapshot a fondo. Y ahora vamos a ir a ver el video que ha publicado Mojang, y te recomiendo verlo completo, ya que habla sobre todo esto, así que comencemos.
Hello everyone, I hope you all are well. I'm Agnes, and today me and my colleagues Jasper and Henrik are going to talk about world generation in the Caves and Cliffs update. We're going to talk about the new caves, cave biomes and mountains. I hope you all will enjoy it. When we make a new update like Caves and Cliffs, it's a long process. I would say we start about 1.5 years before the planned release, at least. And we start, of course, just defining a theme. But quite early, it's time to decide approximately which features we want in the update. So one thing we work with is, for example, player styles. Identified quite many player styles, actually. We also think it's important to find a balance between reward features and journey features. So journey features, they are features that improve the journey, maybe when you are looking for a reward. And it can, for example, be new biomes, like the Lush Caves and the Indroduccion caves. And reward features, they are more like actual rewards, the things you're searching for. It could, for example, be a new mob or a block that you can use for something cool. And we have learned that when an update have a really good balance between these two different kinds of features, that often is a fun update. And fun is, I mean, that's the ultimate goal. It should be fun and lots of player delight.
Hello, I'm Henrik. I'm on the gameplay design team here at Mojang. And what I do is basically design and build the features in the game. The main thing that tells us a feature is good is when we can't stop playing it ourselves. When we're playtesting something, for example, I'm in the caves and I can't stop playtesting, I'm just finding an excuse to run around just a little bit more. That's the main symptom of that we're onto something.
We really wanted the mountains to feel like more spectacular, more dramatic, like add more contrast to the Minecraft world. We wanted the mountains to look a bit more like real-world mountains, of course in a Minecrafty way, but still really feel like epic mountains and mountain ranges. We worked a lot with the actual shape of the mountains. We worked a lot with height-dependent generation. And another thing, when the terrain is really steep, we made sure to not generate any snow there. And that, I don't know exactly why, but it really made the mountains look so much better. Another thing we really wanted with mountains is that we wanted to add some gameplay to them. And I think it's mainly 2 things. One of the things is the powder snow that creates natural traps on the mountains. So when you're out on a mountain adventure, you need to be a bit careful. And the other things are the goat themselves. So next thing is that we wanted like the mountains themselves to be the main reward for the mountains. So the dramatic visuals, that's the main reward, and we really hope that you all will get inspired from the mountains.
Espera, sé que el video puede estarte gustando, y si te está gustando, pues recuerda que puedes irte abajo, suscribirte, darle like, darle a la campanita, comentar el video y compartirlo con toda la gente que le guste este tipo de contenido. Ahora sí, después de esta pequeña introducción, ya podemos continuar con el video.
The main goal of the caves is that it should be fun to just travel around, even without the biomes and mobs and all the other stuff. Just moving around inside the cave should feel like some kind of grand adventure. So we are inspired by the surface of the world, because if you're on the surface of the world and you live in one spot and then you travel off somewhere, it's going to look different. But the underground has kind of been like, once you've seen it, you've kind of seen it all. So we want the underground to be as exciting. So when you travel off, you should be like, wow, look, a waterfall or an underground lake or some huge cliff or a really tiny cramped cave. And another thing is we want the caves to be realistic, but not limited by realism. So it shouldn't feel like you're on some other planet or like in some other dimension. It should be overworld. But we also want to kind of be able to put in some elements of fantasy or exaggeration. To find inspiration for the caves, I did some traveling, mostly in my memories, because I've traveled quite a lot in the past and seen some pretty cool caves in different countries, particularly New Zealand, South Africa, and the West Indies and Spain, and also here in Stockholm. And also the game itself is actually a source of inspiration. Just tinkering around with the code, trying things and noticing like, wow, look what happens when we add water to the caves. It just made a huge difference. Or when we add, really huge caves to contrast with really small ones.
When doing a cave update, we want to have caves for all kinds of players. And the Lush Caves are the caves that are supposed to feel a bit more welcoming, a bit more safe, more light compared to most of the other caves.
Hey, I'm Jasper. I'm the lead artist on Minecraft. That means I oversee the art and the visuals of the game. And I'm going to be talking about the art in the new caves. The Lush Caves is something you want to build in because it's so green, it's so nice. There's water, and there's of course the axolotl. Lush caves don't really exist in real life because the sunlight doesn't get into caves. But in Minecraft, we like to bend the rules a bit. So for this Lush Caves, we wanted to have a cave that was full of plants, brimming with life. So we decided to have these massive lush vines everywhere, hanging everywhere, covering everything. We have added glowberries into the vines. So the Lush Caves is a very bright and nice looking environment. We have the new addition of bushes. This is an interesting model because it's a block that also has a plant inside of it. We've made these because we didn't want to have trees in the Lush Caves because that would be literally copying the overworld into the underground. And we want them not to be as similar. So we've decided not to have any trees in the Lush Caves. We wanted the Lush Caves to feel a bit humid, like an actual cave with moss and stuff. So we've decided to have like small layers of water everywhere, lush green caves, and a lot of grass. We were trying to figure out how do we make dripstones in Minecraft, right? Because we don't want like dripstones in real life. They're very circular, very organic shapes. We were trying to figure out how do we make this in Minecraft? How do we make this work? And the first thing you might go to is just like, oh, we'll just make blocks. We just like stack blocks together, and it's gonna look great. But I think that has too much detail, and it's a little bit too literal. In Minecraft art, we try to make the shape in a box. We don't try to make the shape with boxes. We've decided to make it a plant shape because plant shapes in Minecraft are already very organic. So how can I make the dripstone fit with more blocks in the area? So the granite is red, right? And I thought maybe it would make more sense for the dripstone to be brown because brown is a neutral color, just like gray stone. So I decided to make it brown because it also fits very well with the sand and also dirt and many other blocks.
So a question that I get very often is, what are spaghetti caves and cheese caves? And the best way to understand it is if you imagine an old television set with static noise, black and white dots, right? And if you take those dots and you smoothen it out using a technique called Perlin noise, a mathematical technique, and you decide that those white blobs are air and everything else is stone. If you look at that, that becomes almost like a map of a cave system. And that's kind of how we generate the caves. And if you look at that picture, those blobs look kind of like the holes in Swiss cheese. At least we thought so. So that's why we just called that cheese caves. But we also want tunnels connecting them. So in a similar way, we can create another noise field, right? The black and white dots, smudge it out using Perlin noise. And then we can decide that instead of white blobs being air and the rest being stone, we decide that the border between white and black, that thin ridge becomes air and the rest is stone. And that gives us spaghetti-like caves. So putting those together, cheese caves gives us these big kind of caverns. Spaghetti caves gives us these connecting tunnels between them. And then we add the old cave generation on top of that, we get a ton of variation.
One thing I'm actually very excited about is the new really big ore veins that we are going to add. They're gonna be really rare, but when you find one, that's quite an exciting moment. When I play Minecraft, I really like to tell stories, and to me it's something very inspiring with finding something that's quite unique in the world. And so for me, like, my imagination starts to spin and goes like, so the person that's found this ore vein maybe now wants to build a castle, or maybe like build a full mining village around it, and what are the stories about everyone that live in this mining village that was built thanks to the ore vein. And I think that's exciting.
This update has been kind of tricky because we're changing basically everything about how the world is generated in Minecraft. But two of the main challenges, especially for caves, has been world height, first of all. We're making the world higher and lower. So the y-coordinate starts at -64 instead of at 0, and then extends to much higher than before. And that's hard because there's so much code that assumes a certain world height. We have to change so much code and do so much testing and fix so many bugs. Plus performance. A bigger world means more stuff going on, more stuff to load, and that can slow things down. So that's one challenge. The other challenge is water levels. We love local water levels. They're really cool. You get lakes and waterfalls. But it's really tricky to deal with when these different water levels meet. How do we avoid walls of water, for example, and things like that?
I've been making textures for a long time now, and the hardest part of making textures is making flat textures, like the polished granite or andesite or diorite. You know, it's really hard to have a flat surface that has quite a lot of detail. Like imagine just a rough stone surface. It has very tiny specks of like crystals or glass or sand. And in Minecraft, the textures are very tiny, like we have really big blocks. So it's like super hard to fit that like into a flat texture.
It's important to try to include as many voices and as many diverse voices as possible, and also preferably as early as possible in the process of crafting an update. So, and here of course the community is super important, because we are very thankful that we have such a huge community, and it's a diverse community, and really getting input, feedback, suggestions for the community means a lot. Because for us it's important we create something that truly is for everyone.
I want the players to be like, wow, this is amazing. And I think with the Underground update, we really did that. So upgrading the Underground was such a nice experience, such a cool experience.
It's the cave update. It's the update that the community has been asking for such a long time. It's become, of course, very important for us to really meet, well, preferably exceed the player expectations. And I really feel proud how we all have got together and really tried to achieve that. And I feel proud. I feel we have a very good update and a good set of features with a lot of variation and with something for everyone. I really hope that you're all really gonna enjoy the Caves and Cliffs update, and that it will inspire you to play Minecraft in your own way.
Bueno, hemos llegado al final de la transmisión, así que nos vemos hasta el próximo video, y recuerda que puedes darle like, suscribirte, darle a la campanita, comentar el video, compartir el video con toda la gente que le gusta ese tipo de contenido, y recuerda vivir tus sueños y no soñar tu vida. Adiós mis queridos amigos.